if you're not making millions with crypto or something like that, then you're the only one. Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Juju, and welcome back to the 1% of Juju podcast. Happy New Year. I know you guys probably have listened to a podcast episode already from me, and you guys are probably a couple days, weeks, whatever. I don't know when you're listening to this podcast episode, but I get it. I still needed to wish you guys a happy new year because it's my first time recording in 2022, and I am super excited for this community. I wanted to wish you the very, very best to you and your family. A lot of health, a lot of wealth, a lot of happiness, a lot of love, everything, all of that, whatever you need. But I'm here and I'm super thankful for number one, this community, and I'm super thankful for you guys a lot, tapping into my content and being very good supporters over the course of last year of 2021, and I'm really looking forward to continue growing with you guys in 2022. I could sit here and give you guys a bunch of like, comment, subscribe. You guys already know to do that, so make sure you do that right now. This being said, we're going to dive into this episode because even though I know that you guys enjoy being part of the community and the growth that we're going to have in 2022, you guys didn't listen to turn into this episode, in order to listen to this new year, new me stuff. We have some things to cover, and you're here to find out how you can become the next millionaire in 2022. 1 year to become a millionaire. How are we gonna do it? Okay. Don't click out of this. This is gonna be really good. It's gonna be really interesting. And the reason I came up with this is there's a lot of noise going on out there, right? Like there's a lot of there's some e-commerce stuff that is being talked about, some real estate that's going off through the roof, right? Crypto is absolutely amazing. Now people are talking about NFTs. People are talking about stocks still. So if you're not invested in any of those, you might be feeling right now like, oh gosh, like I have this fear of missing out, right? Like this FOMO, like we call it, and like you need to just dive headfirst into one of them. And how I normally go about creating content is like I have these list of topics that I think are really interesting and would provide value, and I usually do a bunch of research ahead of the episodes. If I'm doing an episode with a guest, let's look up their content, make sure that I'm very well aware of who they are, what they do, and what their area of expertise is, and I'll do some research on their area of expertise, so it's an informed conversation. So it doesn't just sound like I'm a newbie, and I can ask some questions that are going to be relatable for the people, but also somewhat specific. And then I usually script the episodes. And the reason I script the episodes is because I don't want to be, especially when I'm doing these monologues, it's a little easier when there's somebody else to bounce ideas off of. But when you're by yourself, it's a little difficult to just not sound like you're rambling on. So I usually script the episodes in order to make sure that I'm on track, and make sure that the content is actually helpful to you guys, so that it's not too distracting on a whole bunch of levels. And then my next step is to binge watch, and I don't just do that ahead of an episode, but in general I just binge watch a lot of content that's out there. Like any podcasts that are out there, if you're a podcaster out there, I probably have listened to a bunch of your podcasts, if not all. Especially when it comes to financial content, I listen to a lot of it, but also content outside of that, because I want to know what's selling right now, what's hot, what are people tuning into, what channels are growing, why, what makes it entertaining. And that's probably one of the hardest parts for me, just because content creation, although like, I enjoy being here, I really take pride in this podcast and I love it. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily passionate about being a content creator and just having content and just getting subscribers up and things like that. I want to do this because I want to provide value. I just came up with kind of this, well, not came up, but I've learned a lot of this knowledge over the course of the years, and knowledge that I personally didn't have growing up, right? Like, it wasn't taught to me, it wasn't taught to me in school. And I've been very fortunate to learn it through different life experiences, mentors, and a lot of people that have invested in me, and I'm very thankful for. But I want to share that knowledge with other people, and I want to share with as many people as possible. But I also have a vision for a team, right? So I want to grow for the team, and I have employees that are counting on me, and I have people that are counting on me. So those the reasons like why I'm doing this. So it becomes really hard in this dilemma of trying to stay true to myself and who I am, but also making sure that I make content that is relevant to what the people are interested in. And that's why I have a social media team, and they're trying to get me to do these TikTok dances and whatever. So, well, we're still, there's the debate is still out on that one. So stay tuned for that. But today was a little different, right? Like, so today I was preparing for this episode, and I knew that there's going to be a, a wealth of information on, like, goal setting for 2022 and your goals and a content creators goal for 2022. And I knew that, and I wanted to find something a little different. And as I was researching and watching a lot of content that is out there, I was seeing, like I said, a lot of this, a lot of this information that's out there that is not a lot of this information, but a lot of these different things are out there, but that may be making people feel like, they're missing out. So I thought, like, let me put my 2 cents on how I think that you could become a millionaire this year. And when I talk about becoming a millionaire, honestly, the money is great, but it has to do more with the financial freedom, the peace of mind, the ability to know that, you don't have to clock into work, you're not exchanging your time for money at all times, things of that nature. Like, that's really what being a millionaire is about. And, yeah, we gonna talk about it a little bit. And this being said, I'm the kind of person, I'm very obsessed with everything that is money. I want to learn how money works, how people make money. I want to learn different millionaires and different people that have become really successful. How do they think? What they eat in the morning, what time they get up, what is their mindset. And one thing that I found out, and through having a lot of mentors and speaking with a lot of people, and doing what I do for a very long time, is that you actually become a millionaire, and a lot of people will share that you become a millionaire long before your bank account actually says $1 million, or your net worth actually says $1 million. Now, that sounds a little counterintuitive, like, because the definition of a millionaire is literally someone that either makes $1 million, whatever that's your definition, or someone that has a net worth of $1 million. So it doesn't really make sense what I'm saying right now, but bear with me. I promise it's going to make sense at some point today, because yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that there are to learn about some people that have been really successful, and that I've actually, I was actually on the phone with one of my mentors before recording this, but and that's how I came up with this. Um, but yeah, but honestly, the other reason I wanted to do this, and I'm gonna go into actually doing it instead of just talking about the reason I wanted to do it, but is that I really don't think, and I think I said this on this podcast before, right? That I don't really think that there's a bad way to make money. Although, if we talk legal, because don't go around getting arrested and say that, like, oh, Juju told me that there's no bad ways to make money. But, there's no bad legal way to make money, right? As long as the money ends up into your bank account, and you're able to do the things that you want to do, if that's your goal, right? If the financial freedom is your goal, unless and the thing is like that's what I'm really about because I'm not a real estate channel or I'm not a crypto channel. So I don't really have an incentive to have you be passionate about this one thing. My incentive is for you to be passionate about your financial freedom. And that's really what I want. So, there's all these things out there, e-commerce, trading, real estate, business, 9 to 5 career, all of that. And, you know, if you get to, sorry, my computer's going to die. Um, if you get to the point where you have all those things, where you have the money in your bank account to do, who cares about what the vehicle is? But it may make you may feel that, there's that fear that like I said of missing out. There's actually an article, I believe it was by either the Wall Street Journal or like the New York Times, something like that. I'll try to link it here. That said, if you're not making millions with crypto or something like that, then you're the only one, right? And with what's going on out there, especially with the social media, it may feel that way, right? Like you're the only person that's not making millions with all these avenues and with all these channels. But the reality is like you don't need to have this fear of missing out, because what you're not seeing is the person that got a small loan from their parents and that lost it all with crypto, right? Like what you're not seeing, like obviously you're seeing the influencer with the Lambo or whatever it may be, doing really well with crypto or doing really well with NFTs or doing really well with real estate. But what you're not seeing is the people that have worked for the past 2 years to save on the down payment and bought their first flip and lost a bunch of money and things like that, right? So those are the things that you're not seeing. So if you're sitting on the sideline, it's not an absolute bad thing. You have time, you're fine. You just don't want to sit on the sideline for too long, right? Like I was thinking about the fact that like I've had a few people that I see on social media, they're promoting, whether it's trading or, crypto mining or whatever it might be. And they're promoting things, and then you stop hearing from them for the longest time. And when they come back, they have a different venture. And that's not a bad thing, to reinvent themselves. But realistically, they didn't make too much money in crypto and then stopped doing it and tried something else. They probably like that didn't work out. And that's the part that a lot of people don't see. And that's what makes people feel that they're the only ones not making it in the field. And that's why I think that it's bad when those articles come out and talk about like you're the only one not making money in crypto or not making millions in these things, because that may push people to dive into some things that they're not ready to dive into, and purchase something that maybe they're not as knowledgeable in, and feel like, oh, I just need to buy an NFT or I just need to buy any token, whatever it may be. So don't feel that way. Obviously, I spoke about being a millionaire before you actually hit that $1 million in your bank account. And once again, you're gonna have to hear me out here. But here are the steps, because from speaking with a lot of very successful people which is what I love to do, you find out that's actually a reality, and those are actually the most important things when it comes to becoming, building the life that you really want to live, and to living like the 1%. Like I think that if that's really, your goal, those are the things that um, you will need to master to some extent. And step one, I would say, is really having an understanding and learning how money works. What do I mean by that? Is, everyone hears about assets, liabilities, like understanding how your balance sheet works, understanding what turns into an asset, understanding credit, understanding, compounding interest. All those basic things are extremely important to know. And I've made podcast episodes, and I probably will make some more about those things individually, but they're very important to know. And you need to understand, especially the balance sheet. how what's an asset, a liability, and how does money move around, right? Because what you may think is a liability may not be a liability. What you think is an asset may not be an asset. A great example of that, a mortgage. You may think of a mortgage as a liability, while I don't see a mortgage. A mortgage isn't really a liability because it allows you to have an asset that's actually making you more money than you're paying down on this mortgage, right? So this, although in the grand scheme of things it is a liability, you know, it's the kind of liability that works in your favor, so you don't necessarily have to feel bad about it. Now, if you think about um, owning a car, right? Like having a car just for the sake of having a car, a lot of people are like, well, my car's paid off, but it still comes with other costs, right? Like I just paid $600 for winter tires. Like what the heck? I really need to move out of Canada. But those are the costs that come with it. You have to pay gas, you have to pay insurance. So this is something that constantly pulls money out of my pockets, which is really the definition of a liability, right? Like, so for me, it's like understanding, when I talk about understanding money and how the money moves, it's also understanding when you purchase something like a car, or when you go out for coffee, or when you go out for lunch, that it's not just the cost of, that coffee. Let's say you're in a habit of like every day you go to Starbucks. Well, it's understanding that, well, the $5 that you spend going to Starbucks for coffee instead of making coffee at home, let's say, if you invested that, over the course of time with compounding interest, that's actually worth $500,000. Now, that's not to say don't ever go to Starbucks or don't treat yourself or don't go out for dinner, but it's just understanding, the back end cost. Like when I spend money, I'm always thinking about like what it's actually costing me versus just the price of the item, right? Like if I'm buying $1,000 jacket, like I bought a winter jacket this year, I know that this winter jacket didn't only cost me $1,000. I needed to. That's $1,000 that I could have invested that I'm now no longer investing. So over the course of time, it cost me a lot more than just that $1,000. So I just need to be cognizant of that. So it's not to necessarily stop you from buying, but like just have that understanding as you move around and as you go about purchasing different thing would be step one in your chase towards your million. Step two is learn how to make money. I think that that's actually one of the most important steps. I think that when I did a couple surveys, and a lot of people, more people are interested in learning how to be more successful in the workforce, like having a 9 to 5 corporate world, or not necessarily corporate, but like let's say you work in a coffee shop or something of that nature, right? Like just doing hourly work. Um, a lot more people are interested in how to become successful in those areas, which you absolutely can, but it's just understanding how do you market yourself in order to increase your income, in order to stop just, if you're making, let's say, $15 an hour, well, increasing your income, there's only so many hours that you can work really, without burning yourself out. And physically, like there's only 24 hours in a day, so even if you were to work 24/7, there's a cap to how much income you can get if you stay at that $15 an hour mark, right? So it's understanding how to increase that hourly wage or increase your skills so you can get, a higher salary or get paid in different areas. So it's not only about creating your own hustle and creating your own business, but one skill that is really important to understand is learning how to make money. If you're working in sales, then great. It's learning how to increase your sales. If you're working anywhere else, right, it's like, how do I position myself? Like if I work in a coffee shop, how do I position myself to be the manager of the coffee shop? How do I position myself to work in a coffee shop that's going to pay me just a little bit more, or whatever it is? But understanding how to make money and how to position yourself to increase your income is extremely important, and it's a skill that you absolutely need to know, to learn, because you can't just trade more time for in order to get more money. That's not going to be sustainable long term. Step number three, I would say, educate yourself on assets. Start learning, right? Like start learning, like we spoke about like assets earlier, assets versus liabilities. Now educate yourself on certain aspects specifically, right? Like start with stocks, start with real estate. Don't feel like you need to learn everything, but go into it and start learning how they work. Like what does it mean when something pays me a dividend? What is mean where something I get capital gains out of something? What are the downside of this assets? What are the risk involved? All these different things. Now you can go into these and be educated on it, right? You want to step into the crypto game. Educate yourself on crypto. What is it? What's the downside? What could happen? It's deregulated. What does that mean? It's decentralized. Okay, great. I spoke about NFT. People talk about non-fungible tokens. What does that mean? What is that? And once again, I will cover that. But like, just educate yourself on it and then start purchasing assets. Purchase assets before liabilities. When it comes to myself, I don't even have revenue goals or anything like that. When I step into the year, I have assets purchase goal. And for the long run, I have a goal when it comes to a certain amount of assets that I purchase. And the reason being behind that is because I want that to create more assets that I can then reinvest. So when it comes to like increasing my income and things like that, the only thing that that does is allows me to actually be able to pay my bills or maybe eat food every once in a while. But outside of that, like I really couldn't care less about like how much money I make as long as I'm able to purchase the assets. And then with that, I go ahead and I have the fun and buy the things that I want, but not until I've purchased as many assets as possible. So you want to do that. You want to educate yourself on what assets are out there and then purchase as many as possible. And what you're going to want to do with that, which is going to be step 5, is make those assets create another source of revenue, another source of income. You want to have as many sources of income as possible so that if one goes away, right, you can replace it with with another one. Your main source of income right now may be your income from your job, your day job, wherever you go every day. You put in a certain amount of time and they pay you a salary, then that's your main source of income. You want to slowly with time, reduce the amount of time that you spend actually, or the amount of income that comes from, you having to exchange your time for money, and increase the amount of income that comes from, the assets generating income for you. And that's really in the long run what's going to help you be successful. Obviously, I've shared that before when I spoke about the 1% money management rules, but that's extremely important. And you repeat those steps repeatedly until you become a millionaire. Now, you may not hit a million before the end of the year, and that's okay, that's fine. But having this mindset of being able to live below you means, because you're purchasing more assets than you're purchasing liabilities, is going to get you to a certain peace of mind and a certain control over your own life that only millionaires can have. And slowly but surely, you're going to start creeping up towards that number, and it's going to hit faster than you think. But especially if you're learning skills such as, how to make more money, you're learning how these assets work. Now you can increase that as fast as possible, because you'd be really surprised if you learn. And I know I've been picking on working in a coffee shop and the baristas, but it's not picking on them. It's just I've had some really really good experience with baristas and people that, like, from my business I would absolutely hire. When once I'm in a position to add people to my team, I wish right now, but I don't think that my team members would let me hire somebody else right now. But that I would absolutely hire, just because they were so good and they marketed themselves so well in my experience in customer service, right? So it's, you market yourself, and if you're the best in one thing, you can increase your income in different areas, and so on and so forth. So once you master some of these steps, you can absolutely 10x and multiply your income over time, and really do some powerful things that you wouldn't even imagine are possible. And you just continue repeating the steps. I would say one thing that's important is not to skip any of these steps, right? It is very, tempting right now with social media and the things going on, and the TikToks, which is like a, five, 10, 15 second videos. I don't know how long y'all make these, but really quick videos that telling you like it's so easy to do that, to become a millionaire. It's so easy to do this. All you have to do is buy this or buy this course or do this. There's no shortcut, guys. Like, you need to learn these steps. And the reason why, once you learn how to make money, especially that step, I know, like, I keep hounding in on that one. Once you learn how to make money, you can go out and you can invest in whatever you want. If you lose it, you're gonna be able to make it back because you understand how money works and how to make money. So you're taking essentially less risk. You can go out and take more risk, but you're still not taking that much risk. And that's when you can really allow yourself to exponentially increase your income and increase, like, shorten that timeline, because you have an understanding of, I think it was Grant Cardone that kind of spoke about, he did an interview. I don't know if you guys are aware of who that is, but he did an interview where he spoke about he doesn't diversify. He only purchases real estate. Now, he's able to do that. One thing that he's not going to say is he's able to do that because if real estate crashes tomorrow, if all his buildings just vanish the face of the earth tomorrow, he still knows how to make money. So he's still going to be fine. Um, Same thing with Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. He speaks about the fact that, like, something that's risky to me or risky to the average individual may not be risky at all to him because he has a better understanding of it, right? And, like, he knows how to make the money back. So, once you learn how to make money, you're actually in such a better position. You're actually, yeah, you're putting yourself in a position to be able to go out and take a little bit more risk and to really exponentially grow that money even faster, obviously with time. So really fall in love with the process. And I know you probably have heard this, but it is actually important. It is something that's important. Like, the process is so much more important than the actual outcome, right? So, like, don't just think like, I'm going to invest in this one thing and then, get this large return. Learn how the whole process actually works. And that puts you at a certain peace of mind and ease because, you're basically unbeatable because you can always make yourself back up, right? Like, if I would much rather be in the situation that I am now where I've had to learn from, literally the bottom, how to do every single thing, how to make my way, from nothing into someone that has some money to my name, rather than having just inherited. Because if I inherit a bunch of money, although that's great, it makes the process a little easier. If one thing goes bad, um, and it just, the money just vanishes, well, the money probably not just going to vanish, but if I lose a bunch of money, it's really hard for me to make it back because I don't have that groundwork or whatever. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. I hope that was helpful. If it was, go ahead, spam my comment section. I want to hear from you. Give me more feedback on the things you guys want to hear, the things, anything different that you guys want to hear about. If you agree, disagree, any of those things. But I'm going to jump off. Make sure to share the podcast with someone you care or don't care about. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social. But for today, you guys already know, make sure to follow the steps today to make sure that you're 1% closer to your goal than you were yesterday. Happy New Year, everybody. Love you guys.